Hey, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Jon Vagueiro. Jon, it's great to connect with you, founder, CEO, Adapting Social. Looking forward to talking about building revenue and brand credibility. Think community, we love talking about this topic. It's a great way to think about growing your business, which we do on this podcast. Jon, I'm a business coach. I work with people all over the globe who are successful and stuck. I get them unstuck. So I always like to kick off every episode talking to an entrepreneur like yourself. You started your business at 17 years old. You're working with top brands around the world. But where's a recent stuck that you've had, or where is a stuck in your business that you then, got unstuck? And share the lesson, if you would.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me, John. You got a great name. Great name, John. Great name.
Great name. Great.
But when I was 17, again, I'm going to be 32 this year. So I'm approaching working and being in my business more so than I haven't in my life, which is interesting, right? Because I started so young. So there was a lot of things. I would say the most recent one for me would be, I'm a recovering people pleaser, John. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like pleasing people. So it's in me. And what I had to learn the harder way was that being a people pleaser is actually super toxic for a leader, right? When you're leading and you care more about being liked and pleasing people than you do about results, what ends up happening is that you think you're earning respect and all this great stuff because the people that you want to gain their respect, you're being nice to them, you're people pleasing. But in reality, when they're not constantly not getting results and you're just pacifying and just being okay with everything, then when you get, they stop respecting you, right? Because viscerally they know that they're not going to be in trouble, or that they can just keep screwing up. So how I got myself unstuck, and this has been like my whole life journey, but really focused the past 3 to 4 years. And it's, you have to earn respect through being respected by getting results. When you get results and people are happy and they celebrate a win, earn the respect there, right? So I think for me, how I got unstuck was understanding that. And for me, it's very natural, right? For me to not want to upset somebody or to have a difficult conversation in work or out of work. But you need to have them, and you need to stop worrying about stepping on toes in order to, I needed to do that to get unstuck from where I was.
Yeah, totally understand that. Yeah, it's I read a long time ago in a book by Ken Blanchard. I can't remember which book it was. I love all of his books, but he talks about the difference between being nice and tough and nice.
Right.
And he really talked about kind of the fine line that when you're, and I consider myself a nice person, but when you're sometimes too nice, too people pleasing, when you do have to be tough or hold somebody accountable or things of that nature, it's a lot harder, especially in a leadership role. So you got to kind of find that fine line. And I think, Think community, we talk a lot about this, and we talk a lot about being a heartfelt leader. And part of being a heartfelt leader is, being a little bit of a people pleaser and being able to hear things. And so there is that kind of fine line that sometimes is challenging to find. But when you layer in the right plans, you layer in the right accountability, you layer in the right level of follow-up and things of that nature, and it makes things a lot easier, right? And we'll get into that. We talk about that a lot on the show, but for right now, I appreciate that. Let's talk about you. Your tool is all about, your business is all about building revenue, building brand credibility. And so I really want to focus initially on building revenue, because I think a lot of times people are trying to figure out, how do I use social platforms of all types to build revenue? So talk to that, and if you can kind of highlight the instant versus delayed gratification of that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's a hot topic because a lot of business owners, they've been burned before, John. So they've tried ads themselves and haven't gotten any results, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram or a Meta product, or Google ads,
Right. Well, Jon is frozen. One of the things he is talking about is Google Ads, and he's going to be talking more about lead generation and branding and media.
Here we go. I'm back.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
I was filling in for you while you were frozen.
Thank you.
All right, keep going. Yeah.
I like how you knew how to jump right into it and pivot. I love it. So anyway, but a lot of people they've been burned before. So that's my point. Is that it's a hot topic because a lot of people, whether they spend their own money on ads themselves and didn't work, or lead gen, and the lead gen didn't work through an agency. This is the thing. When I first started the company, and I was door knocking, going door to door, and I was understanding pain points. And this is going back, 2008, 2009ish, and people they didn't care as much about the internet because they were living on word of mouth referrals, people knowing them, the old way of doing things. And the one thing that I realized early on, going back, over 15 years ago or so, is that business owners care about 1 to 2 things, and that's the lifeblood of the company. It's getting more customers, but the better version of that is getting more money into their bank, right? Because they need to pay their employees, they need to have college to pay for, they have their own debts and stuff. So, with us, that's a big focal point, right? So we're very big on understanding the data behind what we're doing and how that paints into a conversion. Most marketing companies will say, well, John, I got you 25 clicks to your website, and so that's a good thing. We did our job. But the reason why we scaled to be in 20 countries and to work with some of the biggest brands in the world, and also at the same time staying with our passion, which is supporting small businesses and solopreneurs, is by understanding, to us, a conversion means that we know that Sally paid you, and we have confirmation that that's from us. Yeah. And we know that it's from one of our sources. So we've gotten really, really good at that.
Yeah.
And that's how we've helped build brands up. But the thing that I want people that are listening to understand is the stark difference between trying to market yourself by talking about who you are versus what your X factor is. People don't care as much anymore about you're John and you care about your clients, right? They care about what is the separator, what makes you unique, right? And then secondly, what is your big gap versus the other people, even in pricing, right? Pricing is a big deal right now with most people. So you hear that often. That's why a lot of people, Jeff Bezos is very rich because you can, if I get a quote from somebody, if I go to a mom and pop store for furniture and I see they want $1,500 for the sofa, I can go on Amazon and it might be $1,400. In most cases it is. And so it's a price world. So people have to understand that when you're creating a campaign, it's not just about telling people what you do, right? There's too many people in everybody's swim lanes now. So you have to be smart and intelligent at understanding and identifying your X factor, which means what's unique with you versus your competitors in the marketplace. And then from a price perspective, how we can add the value there, because that is a big, big, big topic.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. I'm a big believer. Everybody has a unique ability. And sometimes when it's unique, it doesn't feel unique, right? Because you think everybody has it, but there is, I'm a business coach. One of my unique abilities is I'm a really great listener. So when because I can listen, I'm hearing things that people aren't hearing. I'm seeing things that people aren't seeing. I'm able to extract ideas, solutions, next steps, and build immediate action steps for them because I'm really, really great at listening. I've built a business out of listening. And so I bring that up because sometimes people, when they're really, really great at something, they don't know it's unique. Right. And so what would be your guidance for somebody to take time to really understand what makes them unique?
So the best and easiest way I do this with all of my clients, with all my team members, is you got to take a survey from your clients. They're going to tell you why they work with you. They're paying, right? So typically the best way to do that is to straight up go to the people who are paying your bills and say, hey, why do you use me?
Yeah.
Why don't you go somewhere else, right? And it's a provocative question, obviously, because it might scare some people. A lot of my clients go, I don't want to ask that guy that. What if he wants to believe it?
Right.
But to get qualitative data, and that's the thing, data is the key here. To get qualitative data, and if you don't have clients yet, the best thing to do is to go around the people who know you the best, right? And ask them that question, right? Why do you like working with me if they work with you on a project?
Right.
Or people who know you and your family.
Right. Well, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I don't think it's just the first question. I think it's the next couple questions.
Right.
You know, like I think if I were to ask a client of mine or somebody, they would say, you're just, you just give me great ideas. You give me great things to kind of like do the second I get off the phone with you. And that's great. But the ideas come from me asking questions and listening. So I'm really
Right.
great at asking questions and then listening, but I would have to ask a couple questions to get them there. So I just, I agree with you 100%, but what I would say is don't necessarily stop at one question, really kind of dive deep. Most people, I think, may give kind of a surface level response, but to get the real X factor and the uniqueness, I think you got to keep on asking. Oh, well, thank you for that. So, all right, so let's move on. So you do a lot of things. You talked about working with solopreneurs, brand, credibility, lead generation. You're working with media and ads and things of that nature. I think one of the obstacles that people have when it comes to, and you mentioned kind of, doing ads and things of that nature is, the understanding where to do those, understanding what the budget is, is it a short term? Is it a long term? What the expectation kind of should be when you're doing something like that for an ROI or brand recognition. So how do you kind of guide people into that?
So that's a great question. You're full of the great questions. I love this. So what I typically like to do, I'm going to give you a case study example, right? So we started working with a client, this guy, and I use a really relevant one for you. So we started working with this client. He's a business coach. He's in Utah. And when we started working with him, right, we're very business acumen driven. So we're not like, okay, cool. What's your goal? You want to get a couple more clients? Great. We'll start doing some ads.
Yeah.
So we said to him, what's your current gross revenue? What are you taking home gross? And, he shared that he was doing close to like 400, like 450, 425-ish in that ballpark. And I was like, okay, great. So what's the goal? Where do we want to go? And he was like, dude, I want to get to $1 million. He's like, I've had the experience of doing this for 20 years. I've been plateaued in the 2s to then 3s, and now he's just stuck at 4. And he's like, I just want to grow, right? So in order to create, and what I love about your background here is what we talk about all the time is summiting Mount Everest, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the journey. In order for you to grow and to get to where you want to go, we need to have a clear picture. So the top of the mountain for him, the short-term goal for him was in the next few years, he wants to do $1 million. Okay, great. From that point, we then start to understand what we need to get there, right? So what type of credibility in his marketplace do we need to build with his brand? And then also what do we need to do from a marketing perspective and put like, okay, should we be advertising on TikTok? Should we be advertising on LinkedIn? Should we be advertising on these places? We build a budget, right? And then we look at what could be affordable for him so that it's attainable with his current, gross. From that point, we've been working with him now, my goodness, I think for about 4 to 5 years. I think it's going on 5 years in 24. And this year, we're going to get him to cross 3.5 million. Now, how did we get there? Is because we looked at what he's doing, right, from a business. We said, okay, right now you're trading your time as a business coach. Well, what if we built a platform? And what if we have people pay for your content at their own leisure, right? So it's a lower ticket item, but we build it, it's more affordable. We can get thousands of people on the platform. Yeah. And it's lesser of your time. You can be more with your family instead of jumping on phone calls for hours and hours and hours with people. It's mind. So you get this similar impact, but way more reach. So we scaled the belief system that he had, which was that he had to be on phone calls one-on-one, talking to people for trading his time for a monthly retainer. And we just, oh my God, we 10x his business based on that. So that's how we work, right? So our team, we have marketing analysts, we have researchers, we have business coach, not a coach, but we have like a business intelligence internally who looks at every client that we bring in and looks at every area of opportunity that they're missing. Yeah. And because in my belief, and a lot of what we do, a lot of times with the clients we work with, John,
Yeah.
They're like, you're a marketing company? You don't feel like a marketing company. You feel like a business development company.
Yeah.
And that's where we're heading. That's kind of what we do, essentially.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you a question. I want to go back before we get to a quick speed round, and I want to talk to you about starting a business at 17 years old.
Yes.
And, you know, when you're 32 right now, I'm actually launching with a business partner a coaching arm that only targets 18 to 28-year-olds, because I don't think that they're graduating college, grad school, medical school, or law school with the tools they need to grow their business, their career, their life, and their own personal brand.
Right.
And so if you were to, you know, so what gave you the courage to start your business at 17? And what do you wish someone had taught you?
So what gave me the courage was circumstance. I was in a position where my family had some financial struggles. They were going to, you know, potentially lose the house, you know, the oldest of 5 siblings. And so I felt compelled to do something about it. And I said to my dad, I was like, well, you know, what can I do to help you here? And essentially, you know, and at that point in time, I was already like with my little jobs that I had as a 17-year-old, you know, working as a lifeguard, doing other things. I was paying him, but it wasn't helping enough based on his situation. So he said, nothing. There's nothing you can do. And so that circumstance has forever changed my life.
Yeah.
Because he told me that. I took the weight of now thinking, because as a younger kid, I had to step up early too, and be like a father figure in some cases to my siblings. My dad used to have an alcohol issue. And so I was already a leader without knowing I was a leader when I was like 11, 12 years old. So when he said that to me, I felt this barren weight of like, oh my God, where are my siblings going to go, right?
Yeah.
And my mom and stuff. So I found myself in a position where I was like, I need to do something about it, right? And so I didn't have a plan B, right, John? I just had a plan A. And it's almost like most athletes you see. If you look at most of the athletes in every profession, whether it's NBA, MLB, FIFA, whatever, right, soccer, most of these people who are the best athletes in the world that are top 1%ers, they came from rough or really challenging upbringings, and they had one goal: is to get their moms out of the projects or get their families out of the situation. I was blessed. I was so lucky that I was in that situation, right? Yeah. Because and I wasn't always in that situation. My dad just found himself on a hard time, right? So because I had a super loving, you know, household, you know, we had great stuff, we had a great family. I just had my dad had a tough moment, right? And that moment defined me. So for me, what gave me that courage is that I didn't have another effing option.
Yeah,
I had to do it.
Yeah.
So the courage was circumstantial, but Tony Robbins says this, and he says, if you're gonna take the island, burn the effing boat.
Yeah.
And you know, you can't give yourself a way to leave, right? So I said to myself, and I grew up at that age reading Steve Jobs, Tony Robbins, you know, all these people. And that was one dude that really got me jacked up. I was walking around as a 17-year-old with a suit, going to pizzerias, and the suit was too small. It was like going up to here for me.
Yeah.
So I would say it was circumstantial. And then the second piece of it, what I would tell people that were younger, you know, like what I got out of it, you know, what they should be doing is, the thing is that at the end of the day, we all look at our circumstances that happen in the moment. A lot of times they suck. Can't sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah.
If you're sometimes we're dealt shitty hands, and that's okay, right? Sometimes you get dealt a rough hand.
Yeah.
Whether that's your parents being not great parents, whether that's you're in a bad neighborhood and everyone's picking on you, or you're getting beat up or whatever, whether that's, you know, you have a disability of some sort, right? Everybody's dealt some version of a bad hand. It doesn't matter what it is, but everybody has that. And I think the thing is that you have two options when you identify the hands you were dealt, right? And you can either sulk about it, or you can get out there and go do something about it. And, you know, the one thing that I would not be here if it wasn't for is I had the mentality. One of my mentors, who is a telecom mogul, and, you know, at this point he's in his 90s, but still operates and has more energy than you and I combined, this guy. But literally said to me, John, when you figure out you have some stuff going on and you really want to get out of that situation, or you found what you want to do for the rest of your life, he goes, there's one thing I wish that I knew when I was your age. He said, never, ever, 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 ever. And he kept going on.
Yeah.
Give up. Don't give up. If you stick it out, in most cases, you wind up becoming the guy in the room that people know.
Yeah.
And you want to becoming the guy in the room that people can rely on and get better, even if you stay good at the beginning, right?
I love it.
So I would say that would be the words is just don't ever give up on what you think you want to do because of your circumstance. If you don't have enough money to do it, you know, if you're sitting somewhere now watching this and your family, you know, is not privileged and you don't have money or they don't have money or you're constantly in a struggle. I've been there. My family's been on food stamps before. And the one thing I can tell you is that circumstance made me. So when you're in a situation, it's hard to think this way. But now when I'm in a challenge, I always say to myself, let's go. What am I supposed to learn here?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? You know, what is God, what is God trying to put in my life and bestow upon me? So it's hard to do that, but that is my challenge for everybody listening. If you're younger watching this or even older, is when you're in a circumstance, what is it supposed to teach you?
Yeah. Amen. Amen. That was outstanding. That's I want to have you back on the show and talk about that and longer. I think that's a beautiful story. And I'm glad you shared it. And kudos to you. Great work. Not time to kind of dive into my story, maybe for another time. But I agree. It's like if we can zoom out and be observers of our own story and extract the lessons and know that the lessons will reveal themselves in time and piece all of the pieces together, your attitude is outstanding. Let's do a quick speed round. Favorite book?
Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins.
Right. Tony Robbins started me off when I was 18 years old. I did his 30-day personal power. He's one of my all-time favorites. I started my whole career because of my dad and him and Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy for the whole roots. And best piece of wisdom.
Brian Tracy too.
The best. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
The best piece of wisdom I've ever received, I would say, not, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but I think the reality of it is that wherever you begin does not have to be your ending. And I think for me, I've always looked at it that way. So for me, I would say the whole never give up, stick in thing, but in that world.
I love it. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to never give up is
believe that they can do it, they're capable, and that God has their back.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Jon, I appreciate you being on the show. Think community. Jon's story is great. His business, his story. I loved it all. I always like to extract one thing as a business coach to help people who are stuck get unstuck. I love this show to have guests like you on to help people get unstuck. And then I just want to extract one thing that you said, which has been kind of a common through line: never give up, right? There's just keep on going because consistency and tenacity and persistence, it wins the game. Think community, I appreciate you. I'll chime it in. You can reach Jon at adaptingsocial.com. You can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Jon, this was a real pleasure, and I appreciate everything you shared today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.